So I was looking for the right blue for the painting Arctic number 4, and I tested some blues. The first two blues are Phthalo blues. One's by Bob Ross, the second by Nescaya Palitra, and the last three colors are Prussian blues by Gemlin, Bob Ross, and Dana Rowney. So I hope you can see it. This here in the middle by Bob Ross has the most pigments, and Gemlin, like expected, because I already know this, or I know colors by Gemlin oil paints more oil than pigments. Yes, and when it comes to these two colors, they both are Phthalo blues, but this one is very dark by Nescaya Palitra, and this one by Bob Ross goes more to cobalt blue, I would say so. But as you can see, these Bob Ross paints, this one and this one in the middle, are very rich of pigments. I like that. I also like this one here, Dana Rowney. I used to use oil paints by Dana Rowney. But yes, so Nescaya Palitra and the Gemlin are not my favorites. I decide for Phthalo blue by Bob Ross, and also by Bob Ross is Prussian blue. Prussian blue more for the water. And yes, and for the sky, this Phthalo blue. And of course my Rembrandt titanium white. Yeah, so it will be monochrome, more or less monochrome painting. Alright, so and here, yes, this was cerulean blue and ultramarine blue, and this I sort out because they don't fit. These are linseed oil, how it looks like when it's dry and neglected after many months. So here I have this gel that I perhaps use or not, and linseed oil by Nescaya Palitra, Bob Ross odorless thinner, yes. So yes, and this tool I needed to open some tubes, because yes, when you don't use it for a very long time. Alright, so now I start mixing, and then I start painting the first layer.